Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Every now and then, great big issues are distilled down into very simple telling symbols. It's why we place such value on symbols. They carry a lot of information in a very easy-to-understand vehicle. Never underestimate the power of a good symbol. One such example is the use of the song Amazing Grace at Catholic Mass. A number of solid Catholic scholars have pointed out in recent times that the story of Catholicism in America has essentially been one of accommodation to the Protestant majority. And they're right. The Church in America has been essentially ineffective at converting the culture. In fact, as we pointed out in a Vortex a couple of weeks ago, if it was not for the steady stream of immigrants from countries with large Catholic populations, the Church in America would simply be disappearing. In a culture that is dominated by the heresy of individualism, which is the progeny of Martin Luther and his band of merry heretics, the Catholic Church is being gutted by the Protestant ethos. By and large, American Catholics are what we would term unofficial Protestants. Most Catholics in America dress like Protestants, think like Protestants, talk like Protestants, reason, if you can call it that, like Protestants, and conduct their moral lives like Protestants. Meaning they divorce, abort, contracept, and cohabit at roughly the same rate. The majority of the Catholic population in the United States is more Protestant than Catholic. Most don't attend Mass. Most have no allegiance to defined church dogma, especially the dogma of the real presence. And most couldn't spot a subtle and yet dangerous anti-Catholic theology if their souls depended on it. Which brings us to Amazing Grace. This song has taken on the mantle of the Protestant national anthem, but it gets played in Catholic churches so often that most Catholics have no idea that it proposes anti-Catholic subtleties in its melodious ramblings. Two in particular stand out. In the first stanza, for example, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Stop! Martin Luther taught that men are essentially wretches and deformed carcasses, but Catholic theology does not teach that. Men are not, in our fallen natures, wretches. Our natures have become corrupt, yes, and they are heavily inclined to sin, yes. We call this concupiscence, but we are hardly wretches. In another section of near the end of the song, we hear, how precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Stop! Wrong again. Grace does not appear when I decide to believe. Grace is a free gift of God, of which there are two types, sanctifying and actual grace. Sanctifying grace is the indwelling of the Holy Trinity, which we receive in and through the sacraments of the Catholic Church. Actual grace does not abide in us, but acts on us, hence the name actual grace. It suggests to us to seek God and to do good, but neither comes to us as a result of my actions or your actions. The theology behind these theological fallacies is that there is no real need for the church, that God works His grace independent of the church once I make an act of faith. That's why Protestants are so hip on faith and faith alone. That couldn't be more foundationally, theologically flawed if they tried. But then again, it was written by an 18th century Protestant minister, so what do you expect? The issue isn't the Protestant theology buried in the words of a Protestant hymn. It's that this hymn keeps getting played over and over and sung and hummed by Catholics during the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And of course, this is all happening under the banner of accommodation and wanting to get along and not being judgmental, and we're all essentially the same, blah, 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 blah. Well, when Baptists start singing Immaculate Mary, or Lutherans start humming Tantum Ergo, then perhaps we can all get together for religious sing-song. Until then, get the theology right and dump the anti-Catholic tunes in the Catholic churches. Oh, and by the way, a note for all the Catholic music directors out there. You know, we do have 2,000 years of sacred history and music ourselves. Surely there must be 2 or 3 hits out there you can find, besides having us all warble out Amazing Grace about every other week. I'm Michael Voris.
Please help us keep delivering these kinds of messages that so desperately need to be heard and acted on. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber. Become immersed in the faith established by Jesus Christ. The Catholic Church is the only hope against evil because that is its God-given mission. As our Lord said, apart from me, you can do nothing. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber and come to learn and love Christ more deeply.